Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Monarch, Legacy of Monsters by Story Archives. I am your host, Mario Busto, alongside
the other host, Zachary Newton. Welcome back.
We're back with Season 1, Episode 2 of Legacy of Monsters. Let's just call it Monarch. And it's called Departure. Thoughts on Episode 2 so far, Zach? How do you like the trajectory? How does it match up or stack up against the premiere of the series for you?
I am really liking it. I feel like this season is off to a great start. I did like episode 1 quite a bit, though I like episode 2 a little bit more. I like that we're diving deeper into the characters. And I think the big thing, look, I haven't seen a lot of the new, I don't know what Monarch universe movies or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
But I have seen like 1 or 2. And I will say, I like that we're diving a lot more into the people element. We're diving into the actual characters going on here. And there's less of a focus on the monsters. There's still enough of the monsters. Like it still feels like you know that there's some impending threat somewhere. But I really like to see the world building here and the character building that's going on. So I really like this. I also am a fan of the whole dual storylines going on. I think it's really cool to see Wyatt Russell and Kurt Russell both in the same episodes.
It's dope.
I love it. Like it makes me very happy.
I'd be super proud of that if I had like a father-son duo, like if I was an actor, my dad was an actor, and I got to do a series or a movie with him playing the same character. That would be such a neat experience to share with each other. And obviously, we're not going to see them on screen at the same time, but nonetheless, seeing them both, I was enjoying that. I was actually introducing my pops to the series because Kurt Russell's a beloved actor. He's one of my favorite old timer actors, right? You know, from Tombstone to all sorts of movies he's been in that, you know, I don't think he ever misses in a film that he's in, but Tombstone obviously tops them all as like an all-time Western classic in my book, or just classic in general. But with you, I love the dual storylines, but I will say this, maybe I don't like it as much as you do, but they do it really well in this series so far. And I thought that episode 2 was a great example of how to do it. Just in my experience of what I personally enjoy more out of a story. I loved how everything was lining up perfectly, from the file to, 1952, and now we're seeing 1952, to the photo that he finds of Lee, because we get to learn more about Lee Shaw in his younger years and how he meets Dr. Keiko Muira, which they have an interesting kind of rocky start to their relationship when he kind of just keeps on assuming and putting his foot in his mouth at this time, because at this time it was rare for a scientist to be female and for a prominent scientist to be a young female, right? So anyways, I loved his sort of Creedence Clearwater intro at the beginning, where we get the stage for the kind of guy he is. You know, he has an intolerance for any sort of bullying, and our first introduction to him, really, aside from the first episode, is that he's standing up for this girl in the Philippines who's getting taken advantage of, right?
Yeah. Yep.
In Manila. And we learn a little bit about his father, who's now a drunk, who also was in the military and has a history with his commanding officer. So there's all sorts of storylines going all over the place. And although Godzilla, I went into the series assuming that Godzilla was going to be the focal point, and yes, he may be the king of all the monsters, it made clear in this episode that there's going to be multiple monsters. I mean, if anybody's ever played the video game Elden Ring out there, where there's just monsters all over the world, and there's like more ones that are stronger than others, it feels like this is just going to be not just one battle they're dealing with, but a series of battles with several different types of monsters. Because even in this episode, when they're going through the SS Lawton, the destroyer that ends up in the Philippines, I thought it was Godzilla in that ship, and I was like, but Godzilla's too big to fit in that ship. What kind of monster?
Way too big. Yeah.
And it's this dragon thing.
Yeah, no, but that's another thing that I love about this show, right? Like it's the fact that there's not so much just a focus on the monsters, it's the focus on the people, and there's like a lot of interesting mystery going on. Like I still want to know what the big deal is with the files. Clearly, that's not been answered yet, though. It's obviously important given the things that happen in this episode, like Cate and friends being chased after, including her brother-in-law, or what would you call that?
Not a brother-in-law.
Not a brother-in-law.
It's
it's a half-brother. Thank you very much. But no, like the mystery as well. Like I want to know how the hell the ship got there into the middle of the Philippines. Like it doesn't look like there's any water nearby. It looks like it's literally just placed in the middle of like two mountains. So
yeah, that was a pretty interesting discovery that Randa and Kiko, or Kay, let's just call her Kay, make in the flashback. I think every character kind of has a shining moment in this episode, right? I mean, Kentaro and his mother have a shining moment where they get pretty much harassed by this guy named Tim from Monarch, who's very aggressively going after these two for these files, right? Going so far as to kidnap Cate. But we get this really cool moment between Kentaro and his mother where she's a badass too. I mean, she kind of like in her own secret way tells him to take the files and run, you know?
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of everything you need for a good show. We're getting like all the little puzzle pieces, right? We have the mystery of Hiroshi and how he disappeared. We get the story of Lee, Kay, and Billy, right? Bill Randa, who an emailer, which let's pull up those emails for at the end of the episode. We can read the couple that came in. John Goodman's character, who I didn't know, is actually Bill Randa, who's Billy, who is Kiko's husband, Kay's husband, right? Dr. Muira's husband. And I didn't think it was him simply because he aged ridiculously from 1952 to 1973. Like that looks like a 40 years of aging, not 20 years of aging. So I wasn't aware of that, but we had an emailer write in, I believe, Ryan Brenneman, who mentioned how deeply connected this series is with Godzilla vs. Kong. And although I saw that movie, it's been a while since I've seen it. I haven't seen Skull Island, which I think is the key movie to watch, but I don't even know if I want to watch it because it might take away from some of the mysteries that I'm learning as the show goes on. And I kind of like being surprised and not knowing much as I watch this series.
Fair enough. Maybe I'll go back and watch it, and maybe I can pick up on some of the little Easter eggs that are hidden throughout here.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would definitely be cool. All right, so we started the episode, like I said, with Lee, who is assigned on an escort mission, which is kind of mysterious in the sense that it's kind of a punishment for him for punching one of his fellow comrades in the face for harassing this girl, right? And the last guy they sent on one of these escort missions died. So he has this commanding officer who I can't quite tell what likes him or doesn't like him at this moment. But let's just assume for the sake of the first impression that he doesn't like him because his father may or may not have roughed it up with him in the past.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think that his boss really likes him. I think he's just, doing his job. He's giving him a punishment. Knowing that the guy that was on a escort mission before him though died, why do you not bring more than just a pistol with you? Just saying. I'd at least feel better with a rifle. Maybe not grenades. I don't need to bring grenades with me, but bring a rifle.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they didn't give him enough equipment for it. Who knows? But by the way, I need to look up this General Puckett. Okay, that's the name of the commanding officer, I believe, who's played by Christopher Heyerdahl, who plays. I was kind of astonished at his great American accent because he's on a show called The Hell on Wheels, and he plays this character called the Swede. And he's memorable. Let's just say that. He's also in The Last of Us that we covered earlier this year. He plays Dr. Schoenheis in that episode, which is episode 1, When You're Lost in the Darkness. I believe he plays the doctor in... I have to actually look that up. He may play the doctor who intros The Last of Us when we get that kind of the doctor who's in the talk show.
Yeah, I think you're right. The first episode, yeah.
Yeah. I kind of want to look that up. But anyways, he meets up with Dr. Muira in the Philippines, and she's on a mission, really, to investigate these radioactive isotopes that keep on appearing on their radar, and they don't know who's behind it. It's very far-fetched to believe that the Philippines are causing these radioactive isotopes. And it's not America. They don't believe it's Russia, but they need to rule out who it could be, right? So they go to this spot in the middle of the jungle to find it. And that's where we meet Bill Randa. This is where all these characters meet. They all meet on the exact same day, which is kind of funny to think about, right?
Yeah, for a little bit when they first met, I thought it would maybe like Bill and Kay were kind of like playing a game with Lee or something like that. Like they were married at this point, but they don't even know each other at this point. This is when they first meet. Clearly not married, no kids, nothing yet. So I mean, they all must have been together and worked together on this island for quite a while, from between where we see them here and where we had seen them in episode 1.
Okay, so now I got some clarity of General Puckett, who's the commanding officer. He plays, you remember in the talk show at the beginning of Last of Us, there's an opening where they're talking about where the biggest epidemic could occur from, right?
Yeah.
How there's a doctor who's talking about and pretty much prophesying exactly what occurs in Last of Us. And then there's a doctor who's kind of refuting and kind of making light of it.
Yeah.
He's the doctor who's kind of making light of it, which is interesting. They're keeping him active, and he has a hell of a, like, I couldn't tell, his accent is indistinguishable from his role in Hell on Wheels, which was one of my favorite shows on AMC back at, like, when they were like the golden era of television, right?
Yeah.
It's a Western about people who went west to continue the railroads and pretty much connecting the U.S. It's a really good show. Anyways, so they go into the jungle. They meet Bill Randa, who's randomly there, pun intended. And he is a researcher of MUTOs. Do you know what the MUTOs acronym stands for?
I had to look it up before.
Yeah.
So it is a massive unidentified terrestrial organism.
Yeah. It's
much
funny
easier to call it a MUTO, by the way.
MUTO. Yeah. We'll just keep on calling him MUTO. Well, it's funny that he's pretty much investigating these mythical, huge creatures. But when she mentions aliens, she's like, what do you think? I'm insane? You know? So he's like, he doesn't believe in aliens, but he does believe in these massive creatures who exist here, which I found a little confusing because I can understand how she has that waveform pattern, like how she has a chart and she can measure something.
Yeah.
But I wasn't exactly sure what he was measuring until we see Lee leaving pissed off, right? Because she dismisses him of service, right?
Yeah.
And he sees those lights in the sky.
Well, remember, Bill talks about, like some creature, spraying fire or breathing fire into the sky, into these patterns. So I think that he basically had a sketch of these patterns of fire, if you will, that people were reporting, and she had some actual like readings from a scanner. Yeah. I found it extremely convenient that both sketches lined up so perfectly. It's like, different size pieces of paper, and we just happened to like draw this out at the exactly same zoom level. I thought that was kind of convenient, but whatever. I mean, we got to make the connection. It doesn't piss me off or anything like that.
Yeah. I rewinded it about 3 times to try to understand if he had explained how he came up with that chart, but there really wasn't a massive explanation for it. Moving on, this episode kind of juts back and forth between 1952 and 2015, right? Kentaro's having a difficult time dealing with the fact that his dad had an entire different family in San Francisco. And that's kind of naturally a jarring discovery to make. But he has a cool kind of character arc moment where he's going to work. He's a typical, company man in Japan. Like the famous shots you see of all these workers going on the subway. He's walking around. All these workers are going one direction. He gets fed up and he just makes a U-turn and walks against the crowd straight to his dad's office, seemingly going to carve his own path like his father was doing, although we don't really know what he was up to yet.
No, we don't. But in a fit of rage, he ends up finding another Monarch file. This guy's got Monarch files just lying around everywhere. I have a feeling this is not going to be the last one, but we do get a little bit of, I believe that was video footage in like a little canister, correct?
Yeah, it gives you the sense that this whole plan of his to leave was not deeply planned, right? Because he left things kind of all over the place, right?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder that he was probably chasing over some opportunity that he didn't think he'd have another shot at. That's what it feels like, that he saw a window of opportunity for something he had been working on. And so he made the jump to go do it. Perhaps to see if his mother is still alive. Who knows, right? We don't really know what he was going after, but he left a lot of things behind that seemed a little bit sloppy for someone who had been so careful to hide the different aspects of his life.
Yeah. Do you think he was like he's just on the run? Like the thing that I'm trying to figure out is the relationships going on here, because you've got Bill Randa, and his son is obviously Cate's and Keiko, not Keiko, but Cate's
Hiroshi.
father, Hiroshi. Yeah, exactly. But I feel like the Monarch documents that he encountered were the ones that were on that ship, the ones that were picked up in that, I guess, swarm of fish, right? So did he always know about Monarch, or did he kind of like figure stuff out, find out about it, and now Monarch decided to go after him and he went on the run? Like, what do you think kind of happened here?
Well, if you think about it, it's highly convenient that he had parents who pretty much founded Monarch. From what we understand, Bill Randa is a founding member of Monarch, or is deeply ingrained with that, okay?
Yeah.
As far as we know, he's still alive, Bill Randa. Although he does have that moment in the beginning of episode 1 where, there's a giant crab and a spider, but he's not killed. The last shot of him we see is him dumping the files into the ocean and him looking at them. Maybe thinking maybe I didn't have to dump them in the ocean because I survived.
Maybe I should jump in and go get them.
Yeah, but I find it almost hard to believe, because they say that he was 18. Hiroshi was 18 when his father died. I would find it hard to believe that he literally made it all the way to 18, and his parents, who are scientists, who founded this organization, they don't really have a reason to be secretive, would hide that information from him. It seemed maybe he was out on that ocean looking for these files and was actively searching for them. Although, talk about a needle in a haystack, right?
Yeah, really. Or a fish stack. I don't know what I'd call that one. A
Unless
drop in the ocean.
but then again, if you think about where we start this show, he's on the run from Monarch, absolutely, because Monarch's trying to retrieve these files. So something went awry with Monarch in terms of the power structure or what's going on in this organization that was bad enough for him, the son of perhaps the founders or integral members of the founding team, to leave and to pretty much escape, right? And anyone associated with him also is either imprisoned or escaping, because when we're introduced to Kurt Russell in this episode and he's in the senior living facility, because Hiroshi leaves that information behind in the file that Kentaro discovers, my first impression was, he's a little bit too young to be in a senior living facility. Yeah. Right? And so that was literally what I wrote before he lifted up his pant leg and we started to get the sense that he was being surveilled. Right? I was like,
it's house arrest.
I was thinking that he was just in the senior living facility because he was trying to, there's some senior women in there. He's trying to kind of just be a player in his old age. I thought maybe that's what he was doing, but no, he's being surveilled. There's microphones and cameras all over the place, and it's really just a open air prison, so to speak, of monarchs that's keeping him held hostage there for the most part.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice place to be under arrest, in my
not too
opinion. Bad. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that. I mean, I imagine it would get boring. I don't know that you're ever allowed to leave or anything like that, but it is pretty nice.
Well, I think that's kind of on purpose that they do this, right? Because it doesn't seem like Monarch is necessarily completely evil. They seem kind of good and evil, or not maybe even evil at all. Maybe just they're doing something or striving towards a goal that certain members think is the wrong decision. Because this guy, Tim, who pretty much kidnaps Cate here, he's really, although he's aggressive with it, he's not over, you know what I mean? Like he's trying to calm her down in the car, saying, "Hey, you're not like, we're not going to hurt you." You know, you could tell that this guy's he's really not going to hurt anybody. At least that's what it feels like. But I was kind of shocked that Cate went so easily with him. I would have been screaming bloody murder in that subway if, some guy just grabbed me by the arm and tried to drag me out of the subway.
Yeah, well, he comes off like a very shady dude. So I wasn't a fan of that. Though I agree, like there is a sense of like, oh, Monarch might not be that evil, but I mean, in the same breath that you said that, you were literally talked about the fact that he basically kidnapped Cate, right? Like
he does.
There are just some shady things. I mean, they've got like a lot of like military-esque people, you know, running around with their own uniforms on. So this seems like this very secretive society. Again, I haven't watched like hardly any of the other movies, so I can't speak on that with authority, but I don't think that they're good. I feel like they're covering up something, or at least trying to cover up something very bad that they were a part of.
See, I don't even think it's that. I think that they are like a global government organization, but they're highly secretive. So they're really not ever supposed to be found out. And I think that whenever they are found out, and these files probably represent like just an open, you know, a security concern, right?
Mm-hmm.
For whatever these classified files contain. Yes, I definitely think they did something wrong. What I'm trying to say is, I have a feeling this is more like they're bringing you in, and the moment you have those files, like these kids have no choice. They're all members of Monarch now. And so I think it's one of those things where, you know, it's like, you're a wizard, Harry. You know, you're a part of Monarch, whether you like it or not. You saw this shit. You gotta suck it up and be a part of it. Now, his method of bringing her in, you know, shady as hell, right? But they don't ever pull a gun on anybody, right? They go to Kentaro's apartment. You know what I mean? Like, they could have beat the hell out of him, or killed him and taken the files.
No, like they could have done things a lot worse. It's just like the whole scenes with this just felt, man, everything was like conflicting with each other. It's like, I'm not here to hurt you. It's okay. As he's putting a bag over her head, I found it kind of comical. And a bit messed up. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I think that's what Bill Randa's or Kurt Russell's version of Bill Randa had told us in the show, is that once you find out about Monarch, they recruit you. Like, you work for Monarch. Once you know, you work for them. Like that's kind of it. So I like, whether they're being nice or not, the reality is they have these people have no choice, from my understanding. The way that I'm reading things from this episode is she has no choice. Her half brother and May even have no choice in the fact that they're going to be forced to work for Randa, or I would assume live in potentially a pretty luxurious prison.
Well,
just like Lee Shaw was forever.
We keep saying Randa. We don't know if Randa is the one in charge of Monarch at this point. We truly do not. We know that he had a part of it because of one of the flashbacks where Lee is complimenting him of keeping Monarch afloat or something like that.
Yeah, and
we don't know.
Yeah, my apologies. I think I said Kurt Russell's version of Bill Randa. It's Kurt Russell's version of Lee Shaw. So Lee Shaw is the one that tells us about that. Apologies.
Yeah, just say Lee. I think Lee, because it might get confusing, right? Old Lee.
Old Lee and young Lee.
Yeah, because I've been doing the Bill Randa thing, going back and forth between John Goodman and Billy. And I keep saying John.
It gets a little confusing after a while.
So I'm going to just call him Bill, and we got Bill and Lee. I'm going to just put the fact that I love John Goodman and Kurt Russell aside for this series. I'll say this. I think that Tim and, you know, intimidating hit woman that they brought with her, with him, who wasn't very effective, but I think they could have approached this completely different and brought these guys in so peacefully. They could have approached and been like, hey, they could have even lied. They could have been like, hey, we worked with your dad. You know, we have these files. We've been looking for him. You could have just kind of deceived them to bring him in.
Well, he didn't even know that they had worked with Cate's dad at this point, because
which is funny.
They didn't even know who her father was, or who Kentaro's father was. Tim only found out when he was in Kentaro's apartment and saw a photo. And he's like, oh shit.
Yeah, that reaction is probably my favorite part of the episode. When he's looking at the family photos and he sees Hiroshi and he goes, oh shit. He goes outside to run after him even more. Yeah. Which adds to the mystery of what Hiroshi's role was. Was he formerly in charge of Monarch? Who knows? But you do get the sense almost that the reason I keep on saying that I don't think Monarch is completely evil. I think that they're more like just a secretive organization. Is I think everybody knows about them, to the point where when Cate goes to the police department and the cop gets on the phone, I have a feeling that he's talking to somebody about the situation, and it has to do with like telling Monarch where this girl is or something like that.
Yeah, I got that feeling too. I wasn't sure if it was more her being paranoid, exactly, or if he was really kind of just like reporting, on her. I mean, just like in For All Mankind, with Margot and Rasha, right?
And
Like,
Russia.
for a moment, I felt like it's just like, is everybody kind of like watching her? Like, anybody in a position of power kind of knows about this,
Mm-hmm.
or is she just being paranoid? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure to this point in time. I don't know what I would put my money on here.
Yeah, no, me neither. I'm sure we'll continue to find out. But hey, they don't have Lee under lock and key in that senior living facility, right? He's able to take off that ankle bracelet and seemingly they're getting the hell out of there, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't really see what they decide to do, but we can assume that they're all leaving there.
They've got to leave.
And trying to find Hiroshi or take the next steps to find him, right? Do you think Lee is Hiroshi's father, or do you think Bill Randa is Hiroshi's father? Because I also think that is not necessarily a close and shut case.
I'm gonna say I think Bill is Hiroshi's father. Though it is interesting. I mean, Lee clearly has the hots for Kay in this whole show.
Absolutely.
And I was thoroughly surprised at the beginning of this episode to find out that Lee was the first one to meet Kay.
Yes, so was I.
I thought that was a little odd, but I do think that Bill and Kay, like, they've got something, that they've got something going on. He's just not as flirty as Lee is.
I think Kay has the hots for Lee too, though. I think there's a little bit of a love triangle between these three.
I do get that feeling too. Yeah.
Or if not, it'll develop at some point. Because Lee does turn around immediately out of duty and, whatever else you want to call it. Right. He does he saves both their asses, to be honest.
He does. Thank you for seeing the flying dragon and coming back.
Well, he didn't see the dragon. He saw
he saw the fire in the air. He saw the patterns.
The light, but it wasn't. Was it fire? It looked like
it was like radiation, like fire, like radiation. I don't know. Like I feel like everybody that saw it, would call it fire because you're like, I don't know what else to call this glowing thing in the sky.
It looked like
right?
it looked like Aurora Borealis. Like
it did kind of look like that
during the day, or it also looked like when that train derailed in Ohio and all the chemicals were up in the air recently, just earlier this year, and the residents of the towns were videoing the rivers and the canals and the ponds and stuff, and you could see on the water when the sunlight would hit the water that it was like rainbowish.
There was like a film on top of it. Yeah,
it was all the chemicals within, which as they're in this naval destroyer, by the way, which it has a hell of a story because apparently Bill Randa is the sole survivor of the ship that went down. Okay, which is a little shady, by the way. It's a little shady as to how he's the only survivor. I will say I think something's up there. It crashed 200 miles, I think he said, west of Pearl Harbor, and they are 5,000 miles away from Pearl Harbor. So this ship was transported by whatever took it down. And I don't think it was that dragon, by the way. I think perhaps it might have been Godzilla or something.
My understanding is it was King Kong that they hit. So that's what I've heard. Whether it's true or not, again, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie.
Okay.
But I still don't think that explains how it got here.
Well, maybe it is King Kong because it is in the middle of the jungle.
Yeah, but I mean, he would have been in the middle of the ocean, right? That's my point. Like, I don't know that it would have been him that brought it here. I don't know how it got here. So, but like, that's the part of like the mystery going on here that I really do like. I like that this feels like almost like an investigation. It's fun.
Yeah.
Minus the being, chased after by titans and things like that.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the movie? I think it's called Wrath of the Titans.
No, I don't think I've seen that.
Man, I love Greek mythology.
Same.
And it has Sam Worthington, and he plays Perseus. It's actually a good movie. I mean, it has horrible ratings, but I gave up on Rotten Tomatoes years ago when the movie Secret Life of Walter Mitty came out with Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
And I watched that movie and I thought it was incredible. And then I looked at Rotten Tomatoes and it was like a puke tomato. It was like one of those literally a Rotten Tomato was like the review for it. I was like, to hell with Rotten Tomatoes, man. They're bought and paid for. I don't know what they're doing with their rating system, but that's a good movie.
They haven't been accurate for me either.
You know why they kind of suck? And I'm not going to say they suck, man. I don't want to be super judgmental there, but why I personally don't look at a Rotten Tomatoes rating when I'm going into a movie, because I can make up my mind for myself whether I like a movie or not. And they used to have the Rotten Tomato rating on Netflix, I believe, or on a certain streaming platform, and they removed it. Why? Because if you see a bad rating on a movie, right off the bat, you're like, oh, I'm not going to watch that. It has 30%. But who the hell watched the movie, you know? Yep. So it's one of those things where just if you like the way a movie looks, go watch it. And if you like it, then to hell with the green tomato that they put on it, you know? But,
I'll take a look at the movie. Apparently Liam Neeson plays Zeus in it as well. So
yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a guy who's fighting a bunch of titans. It's pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. It's a fun one. I think it has like 2 or 3 movies in it. I don't even know if I've watched all of them. I think I've watched 2 of them. And I enjoyed them. I watched them years ago.
Clash of the Titans is one I've seen.
Clash of the Titans is the first one.
That's the one I've seen. I haven't seen Wrath of the Titans.
I don't know if I saw Wrath either. This is kind of a rabbit hole, but it's worth revisiting. I remember that picture too. He's holding Medusa's head.
Yeah.
And he fights Medusa, or he uses Medusa's head at the end as a weapon. I thought it was good.
I'm gonna have to watch it. I don't think I saw the second one.
Yeah. I don't remember it at the very least if I did. All right. Continuing on here. Kentaro, Cate, and May all get away. They meet up with Lee at the senior living facility. And where we leave off really is Lee giving them an ultimatum, really. He cuts his ankle brace and says, you got 60 seconds to decide whether you want to stay here and pretty much be recruited by Monarch and have the same fate as me, or you want to go find your dad. Doesn't Kurt Russell have like the perfect voice for this kind of role?
He does. I love it. I'm super excited to see, where this is going to go with him and the crew. I 100% think that they're all going to go with Kurt Russell. They're going to go on this little mission. There's no way they're going to be like, yeah, nah, I'm good.
You know what I've never noticed or never said before? Kurt Russell has great hair, yo. Like,
he does.
How old is Kurt Russell?
If I was old and had hair,
how old is Kurt Russell? Kurt Russell is 72 with that hair, man. 72. Good Lord. Anyways.
Mario's a little jealous with the hair. You got like young Kurt Russell hair right now.
Yeah.
Should I grow it out a little more on the sides?
I got good hair too. I'm just admiring the fact this guy's got like a full head of hair at 72. That's ain't no hair plugs there, man. Hey, he don't got the Biden plugs. He does not. He's got his natural hair. So, all right, let's keep it moving here. They go into the ship. Okay.
They being Bill and Kay.
Bill and Kay. Yes, not Lee yet. Okay. By the way, horrible decision by Kay here to just go with a random man in the jungle.
I agree.
To this ship. Had very heavy serial killer vibes. I wrote in my notes. It felt very much like, you ever seen those movies where the girl will go with the guy, or the guy will go with his old mentor, right? Who's like the close friend throughout the whole movie, and then it'll be like, "Hey, Bill, where are you taking me?" And then he'll just go into the next door. He won't say where he's going.
Yep.
It felt very much like that. And then when he finds his case in the ship, like his name is on the ship.
Nope.
I'm like, man, what the hell's going on? It's like a bunch of kid toys in there too. It's like a baseball glove and like a clown hat, whatever he had going on there. Or at least it looked like one of those like propeller hats you get at the carnival. But anyways, very poor decision on her part, in my opinion. It worked out well because talk about serendipity, right? You survived this shipwreck, and on the day you are tracing a map, you run into another scientist looking for the same thing, and you find the ship that you're the sole survivor of, which we know this also because we saw what looked like dozens, or if not hundreds, of corpses in that organic goo, right?
Yeah.
And the whole time I was thinking to myself, which is like, is this Chernobyl level radiation that they're walking through right now in this ship, considering that these animals have something to do with like radioactive activity?
That's a good question. Very good question. I don't think it's going to be that strong, but I couldn't tell you.
How long was this dragon in there?
What'd you say?
How long was this dragon in there for? Like, just
I don't know. I mean, he may have been. Well, he must have been out flying, right? Because Lee saw the patterns in the air, right? Like that's why he came back. So
how does a dragon like this get seen flying around and like it does not become a bigger story?
I mean, mythical. Who knows how frequently it flies around? Maybe it was in there just sleeping for
12 years.
I don't know, a couple decades or something. You know, the thing that I was a little curious about with Bill, I think Kay basically asks him, "Did you know this was here? This being the ship?"
He did.
He's like, "Didn't know so much as hoped that it was here." And I'm wondering like what it was. Why does he want to go back to the ship or find the ship?
Yeah, maybe just questioning the whole way things went down. But like I said earlier, I think it's a little shady that he was the only survivor on the ship. Did he just discover that calling or that passion for these unidentified, massive creatures before the shipwreck, or was this a newfound, I don't know, a newfound like career path that he was deciding to go down after the fact?
Maybe he was just a kid on a ship that got destroyed by something big in the ocean, and he decided to go try and hunt these things down and figure out what the heck destroyed the ship. Maybe that's it. Still don't understand
sense, right?
How he thought or why he would hope that it was in the Philippines. I mean, it's the last place I would think to look for a ship that had a gaping hole in it. Being in the middle of dry land, I would think to look at the bottom of the ocean, but I guess I'm just naive.
I don't know what to make of it, but I can assume that he has more information than we have given to us in this episode.
He has to.
And it's a decent motivation, right? Think about it. All your shipmates die. You want to avenge them. You want to like tell the world so this doesn't happen to anybody else. So, it's definitely a believable motivation. But I do wonder where we go from here, where things went after Kay was essentially, devoured by these larvae, right? She was dragged down into that hole. And what happened to Bill and Lee's relationship after Kay disappeared, or maybe she didn't disappear and stuck around for a few more years after that, and how that ties in with Hiroshi, right?
Yeah.
I still think it's an active mystery whether Hiroshi's father is Lee or Bill. And I do wonder, who was Bill sending that message to at the beginning of the premiere? Does he mention a name?
Wasn't it for Hiroshi? Like, I feel like that's kind of who it was for. I don't think we ever heard a name.
He said he stole something. He said he stole something from someone. I might have noticed it was gone by now.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Maybe it was for Lee. Who knows? We really don't know. We do know Lee took care of Hiroshi after both of his parents were gone. So
yeah,
lots to find out. But nonetheless, we're off to a great start. I was almost happy that episode 1 was like, we know we got a good story on our hands. We got a good story on our hands. We're not gonna rush it out the gate. We don't gotta put a bunch of stuff out there in the premiere. It's just gonna get better and better episode to episode, because episode 2 surpassed episode 1 in my book.
Agreed.
And I'm itching for episode 3. This is like one of the few times that I kind of wished that we had like the full season out at this point, but
to binge it all.
yeah. When I finished episode 2 and we get that cliffhanger of just what they're doing after leaving that facility. Yeah, I'm in.
It's got the Scooby-Doo gang coming together here.
And I'm interested to know, for the listeners out there who are listening to this podcast, what are you thinking about the show so far? Are you liking it? How does this stack up against some of the other shows we've covered on the network? And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Absolutely. We want to get into a couple categories.
I'd like to open up the emails, and if you can read the email we got, or one of the emails we got, I believe. I think we got like 1 or 2.
From Ryan Brenneman?
Yes.
All right. So from Ryan Brenneman, he wrote in about Monarch. It says, hard to keep up with all these shows. It's a good time to be alive. I completely agree. There's a lot of great shows coming out right now. Just so you know. So, interesting.
Let's bleep that one from the pod.
Okay. Listening into the show, it sounds like maybe you guys did watch some of the Monarch Monster Universe movies. The 2014 Godzilla, Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and Godzilla vs. Kong are highly recommended if you haven't seen them yet. They answer a lot of the questions you asked after episode 1. They're all connected, and Monarch is heavily involved. So I might have to go back and watch a couple of those movies. Are you going to go back and watch them, or you're gonna stay as fresh as you can and just ignore it?
I'm going to stay blind, and then as I become a monster addict after this show, then I'll, go into the break with some new movies to watch and a newfound appreciation for the monster genre. But yeah, let's bleep out that spoiler because someone's gonna listen to this and be like, "Damn it!" Why? Was that the end of the email?
No, there's a little bit more. You had asked how fast Godzilla could go from San Francisco to Japan.
Oh, leave that out.
All right, we're not going to talk about that. So I'm not going to read much more about this email. It is an interesting email, though.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. It's just there's certain things in there we're going to leave out for what potentially could be spoilers. If the movies are deeply connected, which I believe they are, I think you're on the right path.
Agreed.
Okay.
All right. What's the next one here? Beacon 23? Is that the one we're talking about?
Oh, yes. Let's make a comment about Beacon 23. This is a side note. This is a new show. If you found this podcast through our coverage of the series of Silo, written by Hugh Howey and streaming on Apple TV, he also wrote Beacon 23. We haven't watched it yet. We have gotten numerous requests, at least via Spotify and via email, as to whether we're going to cover Beacon 23. And considering we have such an audience that's interested in Silo and Hugh Howey's work, I think if we do watch Beacon 23 and enjoy it the way we did enjoy Silo, that it would be something that we cover or be interested in covering. Granted, we do have to let's just get a business account, MGM subscription going, and I'm going to watch episode 1 of Beacon 23, and we can watch it this week and come back with a report and see. We're launching a few things, though. We got a lot going on in the network. I did respond to that email already and said, we got to fit it into the schedule. One of the things down the line, just openly speaking, we are a small network. We are trying to grow and become better at what we do in all facets of things. But if we're doing a show and we're covering it week to week, and you audience members out there, for the most part, are not enjoying it, or you would like another show, we want to give the people what they want as well. So if there's another show that we like, if Beacon 23, for example, and this is not happening at the moment, but let's say, overwhelmingly nobody wanted to hear one of the shows we're covering, like For All Mankind, for example, which is doing well in the analytics right now. But let's say it was like doing horrible and nobody was interested in that. Then we would perhaps pivot to fit a different show like Beacon 23 into the schedule, and we would probably watch For All Mankind and maybe do like a wrap-up episode. But we're just openly iterating right now and talking out loud about possibilities. And yeah, simple housekeeping, we are covering For All Mankind. So if you've never watched that show, it's getting good again. I thought seasons 1 and 2 were great. Season 3 was bleh. There were good parts and just not my cup of tea for some of the rest of it. Season 4, though, is off to a fantastic start. It's kind of back into what made the show great. Yeah. And then we're also launching another series. I might be inspiring Zach. I don't know if I'm inspiring Zach or his newborn baby is inspiring Zach, but this is 2 Sundays in a row that I'm getting text messages about football from Zach. As far as sports go, Zach is a baseball player, and but he hasn't ever shown a football diehardness. So if he comes over to the light to see the light of how great football is, then you guys will love this next show, because I'm going to be covering the Dolphins HBO Hard Knocks series, which is launching. It's the first ever of its kind. They're doing a mid-series documentary series on the Miami Dolphins, because we're the hottest team in the league right now. And if you don't know by now, I'm a diehard Miami Dolphins fan. And I was thinking to myself, I was on the couch, I think it was Friday or Thursday, and the trailer came up. And I was like, wait a minute, I may never have a damn opportunity like this again. I host a show that commentates and, gives my opinion on TV shows that I like.
Mm-hmm.
I've cheered for a shitty football team for about
30 years.
For my entire life. Okay. My only memory of our greatest quarterback was getting slaughtered by the Jacksonville Jaguars in the first round of the playoffs. Okay. This is the greatest team we've ever had. Okay. And and it's a show, so I get to talk about it. So I'm gonna probably bring on some guests who come in, some friends of mine who are also diehard Dolphin fans, and as Zach continues to come along and watch these Dolphin games week to week, then maybe you'll join the show at a certain point there.
I might pop in.
Yeah. So we'll have that one going this week. That'll be a fun one for the sports fans out there, and join us on For All Mankind. And I feel like giving the people what they want with Beacon 23. We gotta fit it into the schedule. We gotta find a way over the next few months to do that. So
we gotta figure it out. I mean, we got a few space related shows that we would have covered at this point. For All Mankind, Foundation. So why not? Why not fit in another one?
Yeah. Oh, awesome. And it has oh my God, Lena Headey in it, who's Cersei Lannister, and I make enough Game of Thrones references to get sponsored by Game of Thrones. So she plays Cersei Lannister, a great character from Game of Thrones, who you don't know about, Zach, but you have homework. You have homework because we plan on covering House of the Dragons next summer when season 2 releases. So
I will say I have seen the first episode of the first season of House of the Dragon, and it was really good. I liked it. I can't compare it to Game of Thrones because I have not seen it yet. I did like it.
If I could give my professional opinion, my unprofessional / professional opinion, watch Game of Thrones first, get through the whole series, then go to do House of the Dragons. Okay. Speaking of other book materials, I'm actually nearly done with the Hunger Games prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. That movie just came out in theaters on Friday. I'm planning to watch it at least over the next couple of weeks, and I do want to do a kind of quick review on that. The book's great. I'm listening to the audiobook. You can get it for free on Spotify. I don't even know how that's possible, but it's there. And if you look it up, you can listen to it. That's how I'm doing it. And I actually own the book too, but I've been increasingly busy with work lately, and it's been kind of great to listen to a great fiction novel as I'm doing work or moving around the house and stuff. So that's my Rex. That's the housekeeping for now. Let's get into some categories on this second episode of Monarch, and then let's close out this episode.
Love it. Let's start out with favorite character of the episode.
Lee Shaw, boy. Kurt Russell and the other one, Wyatt Russell.
I'm gonna have to agree with that. I want to give it to Kurt Russell's version just because it's
Kurt Russell.
So exactly right. Yeah. So I'll do that. I'll niche down onto the which Lee Shaw we're talking about here.
Underrated Kurt Russell performance, Sky High. You ever watch that?
Yes, I have.
Superheroes. It's a Disney movie. Yeah. He plays like the dad who's the.
Does he really?
Yeah, and the son's kind of a late bloomer. He hasn't developed his powers yet.
Oh yeah. I can't believe that's him.
Yeah, it's Kurt Russell. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Favorite scene in the episode?
I like the intro of young Lee, and then I liked Tim's reaction to finding out Kentaro was Hiroshi's son. I thought that was a great moment because it just adds to the mystery of what the hell Hiroshi's role was.
I liked that. I liked Kentaro and his mom ripping up the photos and hopefully getting over this anger that he has with his father. Maybe there's some forgiveness there. Maybe we're past this whole, I'm butthurt drama going on. And I really loved seeing, Cate, Kentaro, May, and old Lee Shaw team up at the end of this.
Yeah, I did enjoy that at the end. I think that's my favorite scene when he cuts the ankle tracker. It says, you got 60 seconds to decide. And
such a badass move. It's just like he's just sitting there and waiting for, 20 years.
Yeah, he's been waiting for this moment, right? It's all coming together now. And he's, it feels like every moment, even in life, right? You have like a split moment to decide what you're going to do. You don't get a lot, at least in my life. It feels like all the big opportunities that have come along.
A lot of it is that way.
Have been like, you don't have a lot of time to prepare for it. You just got to move, And it's kind of fun to see these kids' lives like just completely uprooted. Cate and Kentaro and May, who's almost like Jason Bourne. She's got like a locker with different passports and money and stuff. We glossed over that, but she has an interesting past too, and I'm looking forward to finding out what the hell her story is.
Yeah, I mean, Cate even made the reference to Jason Bourne in this episode, so it was kind of funny. All right,
let's that meme of
which one?
Of the guy in the like CIA room, and Jason Bourne's like, Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne.
I'm not up on my meme culture like you.
Yeah. I'll help you out, man. I'll help you out.
All right, that sounds like a plan. Let's close this one out with, where do you think we're going to go from here?
Apparently the snow, because the next thumbnail has Kurt Russell like in Mount Everest. So
yeah,
apparently we're going to the snowy mountains. But I'm assuming these 4 will go after the last clue Hiroshi left behind. Tim and the female hitman, or whatever she is, the bodyguard, will just be chasing them around the globe, like a step behind or a step ahead the whole time. They probably have Kentaro's mom hostage at this point.
I don't know about that. Like they both left the room. Like I thought they would, but I'm like, I don't know. That side of you that's like, they're kind of nice. I'm like, yeah, maybe they're not going to kidnap her and just hold her hostage.
No, they for sure have her. That has to be what happened there. I just have, if they kidnap this woman in the middle of a public train station, I have a feeling they're not above taking Kentaro's mother. So there's that. I think we'll keep getting the flashbacks. We'll keep learning more about the early days of Bill and Dr. Muira and Lee, and what happened in that relationship between the 3 of them. And yeah, that's pretty much where I see it going at this point. And some intermittent Godzilla attacks in between. I think there will be a few Godzilla attacks throughout the series, because now he's back into Jaws mode. We got not even a whisper of Godzilla in this episode.
Yeah, very true. I wonder how much of this season or this show is really going to be focused so much on Godzilla versus just a bunch of the other monsters out there. I imagine we're going to have a few sprinkled in Godzilla attacks, but that's not going to be the big focus of the show. I'm with you. I mean, clearly Lee Shaw and Kentaro and team here are off looking for their father and what happened to Hiroshi. So, you know, hopefully we find him soon. It might be a little, I don't think the payoff would be good enough if we find him in the next episode. So I don't think that we're going to find him right away. I think there's probably going to be a couple episodes of looking for them and going on that hunt. The thing I'm curious about, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with, is when we go back in time and we're looking at younger Lee Shaw with Bill and Kay, I wonder what everybody's going to end up doing with all of these monsters. Right, like I would imagine they're not just gonna like, hey, great, we found one. We're just gonna leave it here. I don't know if they're gonna try to capture them somehow, bring in other groups. Not sure. I'm curious to see how that unfolds. And you know,
same.
I imagine that's gonna be a recurring pattern. They're gonna find a monster. They're gonna, I don't know, capture it or something. But
yeah, it's gonna just turn into Monster Hunter. That's what it's gonna turn into.
That'd be interesting. Well,
all right.
Anyways, thank you for listening to this episode of Monarch Legacy of Monsters by Story Archives. You can find this podcast anywhere you find podcasts, Apple and Spotify podcasts primarily. You can visit us on YouTube at Soapbox Podcast Network. You can visit our website at soapbox.house, email us at contact@soapbox.house, and we do have a link in the description below to sign up for our quarterly newsletter.
Thanks for tuning in, y'all. We will see you this Wednesday. It is showing up on this Wednesday. We will be recording the next episode of Monarch, and then we'll be following it up with For All Mankind later in the week. So stay tuned. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy lots of apple pie, sweet potato pie, turkey, mashed potatoes, mac and cheese,
pecan pie,
greens, tomatoes, potatoes. All right. Enjoy it.
All right.
Have a good one. God bless.
Peace.